groups of 1 and 2 and 3, and there you have first side as they go through the finish line. It's the Adria Mobile squad, no surprise there, the overall race leader. They're controlling the tempo on the front of the group, not panicking at this stage, utterly relaxed about the into their lead in the last few kilometres. Evtushenko sitting 105th overall, over half an hour down. Griffin Easter in the break yesterday, but he's almost 21 minutes in arrears. He's the best placed of the three riders up front. Ido Silberstein 87th overall, at 24 minutes and 56 seconds heading into today's stage. There's Silberstein there of the Cycling Academy team from Israel, the first ever professional Israeli squad. They've been given some patronage by Peter Sagan. The Slovakian rider has lent his name to this.
It even says that it's powered by Peter Sagan.
Power, if you've got that sort of power, then well, you've got to come up with wins, and it was a great win yesterday from Daniel Turek. He'd been in the break for a couple of days in a row and managed to work the oracle. Griffin Easter is trying it today.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to see a team like this just getting out there and really racing hard and taking all the opportunities available to them. So I really like when a team of young riders and a development academy really just go out there and race hard rather than just sitting around waiting for something to happen. So hats off to them. Yeah,
it's important for the new teams, I suppose, to be out there, seem to be making the race.
Yeah, there's also every day that you spend in a break is a day that you really are making yourself an awful lot stronger. You can train as hard as you want, but until you really get into the race and you're trying to actually race your bike rather than carrying the number around for a few kilometers every day, that's when you're making the big gains and the big move forward. And that's why I always think for younger athletes, youth riders and so on, race your bike as hard as you can and worry about the results later. Yes, if you win, that's great, but it's not the primary sort of target when you're 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. That comes at a later stage as far as I'm concerned. So if you can race your bike hard and win every so often or have a good result every so often, that's fantastic. But I think you should be more pleased with how you ride after a race than what the number says in front of your position.
Yeah, you can be too obsessed with the results. Well, do you think that riders are inclined to be a bit overcoached when they're younger?
Potentially overcoached. Obviously, you got to teach the younger riders how to race and what to do and not to do and so on. But I think the sort of big focus should be on making teaching the riders to race their bikes hard and to take opportunities, create opportunities, and not just talk about sort of ride smart, be the clever one to sit in the wheels all the time and then wait around, don't do anything on the front because it'll hurt you, and then sprint at the end of the day. It just doesn't bring anything to the rider. All you're doing is making that rider slightly less strong for every race that goes on. I think an open, hard bike race for youth riders is the way forward, because that's going to develop them for later on in their career.
And that's what they want to do. I mean, your average youth rider, all he wants to do is attack.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing they can see. So don't coach them out of them too early.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
It's great to see Griffin Easter in the break again today. 23 years of age, man from California. Second year on the team. Just 7 race days at UCI level. There he is there. And he really suffered yesterday. Great 4th place finish for him. He's a student at Fort Lewis College in Durango in Colorado. So it's plenty of altitude training in there. And he's actually the reigning collegiate national champion of the USA. So developing rider. And what it's going to mean to him to have a rider of the caliber of Chris Horner on his squad. Plenty of opportunity for him to learn. Turkish Torku Sekishspor squad on the front of the main peloton, making their presence felt. group winching themselves up this climb, 7% and a bit. Plenty of aggression today. They've got Evtushenko in the break, a 21-year-old. Plenty of evidence from them in terms of, in the last couple of days, they've been to the fore in trying to set things up for a finishing sprint. Hasn't really worked out in terms of coming up with the big result. But Rusvelo will, Sergei Honchar directing operations. Well, they won't lack for motivation, will they?
No, definitely not. But since they got a rider up the road, it's interesting that they sent another man on the attack here on the climb as well. So interesting tactics that.
Yes, when they've got a man up the road, yeah, he'd certainly want to get a gap on the bunch. He doesn't want to provide a carrot to anyone who might be minded to chase him down, because that's only going to mean that the breakaway group, the gap will be closing to them. Looks like there's another one coming too. So Rusvelo have been given a free rein today, or is that a drop-back rider?
Well, it could be a drop-back rider. It's reasonably similar jerseys that they have, but yeah, I'm not quite following their thought process on that one. Maybe they're hoping that you know, they're going to be able to send one guy up the road and then send another man up there and then create a duo that can really you know, work hard together.
Well, they're shaking things up. That's, I think, probably the main ambition. Just riding past the flame towers, the new landmark of Baku, symbols of the eternal fire that marks the history of Azerbaijan, as we see a nice little group starting to assemble with a distance to the pack behind. These the three riders up front, 6.5 minutes their advantage at the moment. Nestling at the back, Ido Silberstein, 21-year-old Israeli, just 171 centimeters and 57 kilograms, so the hills would suit him better. You would imagine the man on the front just moving off, Rusvelo rider Evtushenko. He's twice national under-23 individual time trial champion of Russia, and third in the European Championships at under-23 level. The instructions bellowed at the group there. Flick of the elbow from Griffin Easter as he calls Ido Silberstein through. Now we've got group assembling off the front, so Rusvelo in the main break of the day, and two Rusvelo riders have made it into this nice little group of 5.
Yeah, there's another Cycling Academy rider in there as well.
So interesting pattern, and interesting to see that teams that have riders in the break have decided to head off up the road from the main group. So this could change things a little bit. Adria Mobil seem content to play a watching brief. They're not going to burn all their matches too early. They're not concerned about these riders up front. They're not in any way a threat for the overall, so it could be an opportunity for breakaway contenders to take the victory 2 days in a row. 49 kilometers remaining inside the final 50k of the final stage of Tour of Azerbaijan 2014. 2015 even, 4th edition of this. Evtushenko quite a bit bigger than his two breakaway companions, isn't he? And look at the way the bunch is really lined out now, so they're not hanging around. And we noticed last time up the hill that there were riders starting to drop off, so the pace is getting fairly busy now. With 50k to go, we're getting towards the business end of affairs, and these 5 riders up front haven't quite managed to make that 6. There's a drop back in there, 2 Rusvelos, 1 rider from Cycling Academy. There's that Synergy Baku represented at the back of the group. Also got the Rinkhoff Alvaritz cycling team from Austria. Clemens Frankauer's a superb second place finish for them yesterday. Winner of On Post Ross in 2014 and coming up with another great result at continental level. The Austrian rider didn't get name checked too often yesterday, but we'll try and make that right today, because that was a good ride by him. Just missing out on the win to Turek of Cycling Academy. Those 6 riders struggling to establish this one. We haven't heard much mention of Peter Koenig of Drapac of late, so I'm of a mind that perhaps he's been dragged back into the fold. Elchin Azadov had about 2.5 minutes advantage on the main group. He's in between the main group and the 3 riders at the front of the race, but not sure whether Azadov has been mopped up. I think he's probably still out there and struggling to try and get on terms. Might just be aided by these riders if they make it across to him. Doesn't look as if the main group are minded to let this group up the road.
No, I think that's potentially a bit of a dangerous group, and certainly too big a group to be able to control. And that's also why the guys at Adria Mobil have put a rider on the back of that group to try and sort of discourage them from working too hard and from actually pulling them away, because they know that they're dragging away an Adria rider who is potentially, certainly for the stage, going to be very, very dangerous if he doesn't do any work at all.
Yep, those riders looking towards the potential for stage honours and won't welcome an interloper that's not willing to do his share of the work. Now that Rosvello rider just slots in behind him. Is he thinking about trying to take him out the back? I'll do it that way. Marco Kump, much in evidence towards the front, as indeed is Primoz Roglic, who's sitting about 5th wheel at the moment, so he's alive to any dangers. Very comfortable in the group and sitting 5th, as you might expect from a rider who was so strong on the second day. It really was a very impressive performance, soloing clear on that final climb of the day, and then able to hold off the 3 chasers through the final 33 and a bit kilometres. So now the tempo is starting to rise as Evtushenko feels it a little bit. A big, strong man, but they've been out there for a while now. Griffin Easter, busy style of his, nonetheless effective, and clearly his powers of recovery are pretty impressive. All day in the break yesterday, fancied it again today, managed to get in there. Down the finishing straight on Freedom Square for one more lap. It's Griffin Easter that leads them across the line, followed by Ido Zilberstein and Evtushenko nestling at the back. The Russian in the red kit, Rosvello.
I'm feeling your energy now. We've got some good energy here today.
So they're starting to chase hard behind, but the 3 riders up front still have a handy advantage. We're going to take a quick break. Back after these.
Tour de Azerbaijan. Moving ahead.
to get busy on this final stage of the Tour of Azerbaijan. We're racing around the circuit in the capital of Baku. Just over 13 kilometers to be completed on 11 occasions. We're down to the final 50 kilometers. Crowd starting to gather towards the finish line in Freedom Square as we bolt on a little bit of an extra tour for the riders on the final 3 laps through the Alyadev City Park, and these riders have another little extra leg breaker for them. The 3 riders have been out front for most of the day. At the back, Griffin Easter of Airgas Safeway, Zilberstein of Cycling Academy in the dark colours, the lime green flash at the top. 21-year-old with the new Israeli squad, and the rider at the front, the Russian under-23 national time trial champion, the imposing figure of Alexander Evtushenko. And now Elchin Azadov, he's been out front for a long time, the national road and time trial champion of Azerbaijan, Synergy Baku rider for the last 3 years. Bit of a star in his home country, and just about hanging on in front of the group as they go through the feed zone. So comfortable acquisition of another bottle for him. As the tempo starts to rise in the main group, and Azadov is minded to just slot in into 3rd position there as they race towards another climb on this circuit. They've got a serious lump of about 1,500 meters at 7.5%, which has been testing the riders, thinning out the main group. Riders starting to go backwards. A few riders have been going forwards in the last little while. Still a pretty big bunch at the moment. That's going to thin out pretty soon, I can tell you. So we see Park Hotel Valkenburg on the front of the group, trying to put a bit of pressure on Adria Mobil. They've got the rider sitting 2nd overall, Jesper Ukkelen, the Dutch rider. 3 riders at 34 seconds from Primoz Roglic, the overall race leader for Adria Mobil. And the first of those on the GC sheet is Jesper Ukkelen, 24-year-old Dutchman, who perhaps fancies his chances of pulling a fast one up the hill very soon. He's certainly got it lined out.
Well, someone's going to have to try something, otherwise Roglic is going to walk away with this one. So, you know, regardless of how you do it, you need to start making the race hard and hard enough so that you can attack the leader. Ideally, try and get rid of the leader's teammates in one way or another, and depending on how strong a team you have, obviously, if you're a team of really talented climbers, then you can put on the pressure. That's an interesting way of and you bike around.
Yeah, it'd be easier to attach those wheels to a bike frame and cycle up this hill, but that's not that easy. It's easier said than done. These guys making it look easy up front. They've been doing it for a while now. Silverstein sitting on the back, metronomic pace being tapped out at the front by Evtushenko. Big guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he looks reasonably tall actually, but can be a bit deceiving sometimes.
These things are relative, yeah. Big guy compared to me.
usually you can sort of tell how tall the rider is by the size of the head tube of the frame. And that's around about 58 centimeter frame, so I'd say it's about 180. 6 foot. Yeah,
I bet you're right. We should look it up. Evtushenko, 3 times a national, so twice a national under-23 international time trial champion of Russia, and that wouldn't be an easy championship to win. So Park Hotel Valkenburg setting a good tempo, but now other teams starting to mass at the front. And interesting that Chris Horner's squad have gone to the front. Airgas Safeway cycling team, perhaps encouraged by the effort of the Park Hotel Valkenburg. Chris Horner's 4th on general classification, but he, like Ukkelen of Park Hotel Valkenburg, is also 34 seconds back. Maciej Mugerli also at a deficit of 34 seconds. Those 3 riders, the ones with perhaps the biggest opportunity to get into that final blue leader's jersey. Those are the ones that Primoz Roglic will be most concerned about. The walled city of Baku, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, as it says. It's the old town around which the new city has developed in recent years. 9.5 million the population of Azerbaijan. This is actually the largest city on the Caspian Sea. It's 28 meters below sea level. It's the lowest lying national capital in the world. The largest city in the world below sea level. And as many as 2 million people of the national population of 9.5 million are based in and around Baku. So huge development in this nation, centred on the capital city, as we've seen in so many countries around the world. Shen really starting to struggle a bit at the back, the giant champion system pro cycling rider. That's the old city. Shirvanshah Palace, built in the 15th century. UNESCO World Heritage Site, as we've said. And within sight of those flame towers that represent new Azerbaijan. A nice shot to conclude that little beauty piece. Well, all Zilberstein can see at the moment is road going underneath him. He's stem watching, feeling it a little bit. Evtushenko riding a bigger gear, rolling it around. Rusvello sponsored by Colnago. There's always been a big association between Italian bike manufacturers and the Russian squads and the Russian riders that have come in back in the 80s, when Russians were riders from the former Soviet bloc were starting to make their presence felt in the world peloton. It was often with Italian teams.
Yeah, it certainly was, and I think that particular bike manufacturer has had a very, very long-lasting relationship with the Soviet Union, Russia, all of that part of the world. And you know, it's nice to see that they've continued with that.
Yes, a bit of tradition there, a bit of heritage.
I think there's got to be, you know, a good 20-30 years now that they've been working together, I think.
Yeah, indeed, all of that. Indeed, before the Soviet bloc broke up, it was very often Colnago bikes that the riders from the USSR would ride. Team Tavera from Portugal on the front, starting to drill it. We've seen lots of activity from Team Tavera, haven't come up with the big results so far, but as they hit the hill one more time, Adria Mobil making their presence felt. Primož Roglic sitting fourth rider. So Tavera pushing on. Primož Roglic is there or thereabouts, sitting fourth wheel. It looks like Chris Horner, is it, moving up as well onto the wheel, or is it one of his Airgas Safeway teammates? But Roglic, no doubt about it, the overall race leader. Looks very comfortable, looking around himself to see what riders are there. Martyrs Alley, commemorating the dead soldiers of the Battle of Baku in 1918. And all the victims of the fight for freedom from the USSR in 1990.
Yeah, a bit of action starting to happen here with that is Chris Horner going on the on a bit of a move as well. So Roglic having to respond to that.
Wow, look at that for a time check. That tells you all you need to know about how tough it's been in the main bunch in the last 10k, because the gap has been slashed. They've taken 3 minutes. Almost half the advantage of the leaders up front has been erased in the last 10 or 12 kilometres. I'll be getting that sinking feeling. Zilberstein, Easter and Evtushenko in line, doing what they can, but for how much longer? Josh Edmondson is just starting to show himself, and here comes the leader of the youth classification, Caesar. František Caesar has decided to try his luck off the front. Team Tavera alive to the danger. Adria Mobil behind, not of a mind to chase down every attack, but just keep turning the screw on the front and setting a tempo that makes it difficult for others to attack. And if those attackers don't have enough, then he'll be back pretty shortly. So František Caesar.
Yeah, and this is now creating a bit of pressure on the Adria Mobil riders, because it looked like they've been they still had two riders in there, well, very much near the front with Roglic as well. But with the riders going, it looks like, you know, they're reasonably dangerous for the general classification, which means that they all of a sudden are put in a position where they have to start riding, and it looks like Roglic though is just marking the one man, and that is Chris Horner, you know, which ultimately means that he all he's got to do is follow him, make sure he doesn't that Chris doesn't get any kind of time gap on him, and let the team sort of sort out the rest of the peloton and make sure that they're all coming into towards the finish, you know, as much together as possible, or at least, you know, if it's anyone up the road, then let them be at, you know, 6, 7, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it might be.
So two subjects of focus for the Airgas Safeway fans today. One, they've got a rider in the break, Griffin Easter, but two, they've got an overall contender in the shape of Chris Horner, and Horner being marshalled by Primoz Roglic, the overall race leader. František Cícer is sitting 7th overall, the Team Dukla Prague rider, wearing the purple jersey of the youth leader. There's the green jersey of the leader of the points classification, Marco Kump. And post-chain reactions have had a pretty good week so far. There's Idis Kropis alongside Marco Kump. Perhaps he'll be thinking about his opportunities in the finishing sprint if he lasts through to the finish. Still plenty of riders in that bunch.
And we've still got 3 times up this climb as well, and I think we haven't seen the real action start yet. The real big attacks on this climb haven't really started to happen. I'm waiting for Chris Horner to go out there and really turn up the heat a bit on that particular climb. You know, maybe even, you know, a couple of times to do the full climb, full gas.
When's the time to go? Is it the penultimate time in order to get the 34 seconds, or will the last time up do?
No, I think penultimate time is really where you need to make a big move. Ideally isolate Roglic with a couple of other riders as well, and then on the final lap just really try and distance yourself from him.
Three riders up front now, just 2 minutes and 50 seconds up the road, so another 30-40 seconds slashed from their advantage since the last time check, which wasn't too long ago. So while they look like they're making good headway, the aggression in the bunch is starting to tell. On post-chain reactions on the left-hand side. Conor Donna, who was fine 3rd yesterday, still has the legs to try and do a job for Josh Edmondson. Idis Kropis as well, 9th in yesterday's stage, so well to the fore in the bunch sprint. For 5th place, Benton Jones managing to win that one. Thought he'd won this stage, hadn't he, the Drapac rider from Australia. Fine sprint effort. Benton manages to hang on. He will certainly be one that Marco Kump will be having a look at. Kump is very much in evidence in that green jersey with the red shorts on the wheel of one of his Adria Mobile teammates. They have 2 options today. By far the more important is to protect the overall lead of Primoz Roglic, but with that done, if that proves to be the case, you can be sure that they'll try and get organised inside the final few kilometres to look after Marco Kump for what could be a 2nd stage win for him and a 3rd stage win for the team of the week. But there's a lot to happen before that. These riders are being gathered back into the fold. Well, it's looking increasingly inevitable, isn't it? Evtushenko getting the drinks in. Zilberstein picks up a bottle. Main group has definitely been pared down a little bit on that last flurry of activity up the hill last time round.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think we're looking at it has settled down a fraction now since we got to the top of the climb, so I think we're looking at around about 4-minute gap. Obviously the Park Hotel riders here are quite keen on keeping the pace going, so I wonder whether they got an idea of trying to attack on the final couple of hills, and don't know really why they would be riding so hard on the front, on the flat in between though. You'd be better off just getting the whole team on the front, going up the climb instead, and really pressing on as much as you could there.
We haven't seen so much evidence of Jasper Økelen so far, but I don't doubt he's going to try his luck. There's been some discussion, of course, about the fact that Økelen is sitting second overall, even though he was beaten on that big mountain stage by Matti Mugerli and Chris Horner. Indeed, Mugerli has had several top three, at least two, hasn't he, this week, top three finishing positions. But Økelen on a combination of all of the finishing positions from the first 4 stages of the race, it's a lower total, so that's the way the rule works.
Yeah, I don't get that bit. That's basically just telling you to sprint for 50th place in the peloton on a flat stage. If you're not a sprinter, or if you get messed up in the sprint, then still going for sprinting as hard as you can in the middle of a peloton, and that's just completely bonkers in my view. Go by the points system, so you can have a couple of good days, you can have a bad day, but you still, the points classification is what would determine where the rider places if they're on equal time. It seems by far the more sensible way of doing it.
Yeah, that's not the way the rule is at the moment. Mugerli would certainly be sitting second overall if that was the case. He's 4th in the points competition as a result of his finishes to date. Now the gap is shrinking fast. Was 250. We've just heard in our ear that it's down to 240, so another 10 seconds gained in the last couple of kilometres. So they're really charging across the gap as Griffin Easter has as many gels as he possibly can. He's probably aware that the cars are going to be pulled out soon enough. Well, they have an advantage for a little while, they'll be there, but still they must be getting that sinking feeling as they come across the finish line.
There's also the possibility of, if they get caught, pass on a gel or two to Chris Horner. Makes life a bit easier when you got a rider passing it rather than picking it up from your Maseras when you're on the side of the road, and obviously you never know when you're going to get caught either. So it's inside the last 20k.
Breaker coming back, and they're starting to get excited up front.
The real question that needs to be asked is, what is it that we can do that is impactful?
What the cloud enables is computing to empower cancer researchers. It used to take 2 weeks to sequence and analyze a genome. With the Microsoft Cloud, we can analyze 100 per day. Whatever I can do to help compute a cure for cancer, that's what I'd like to do.
It's live, it's loud, and it's gripping. Speedway from Sweden, with a fistful of power and no room for brakes. Speedway National League, Tuesday, live on Eurosport 2.
So the final 3 laps of the final stage of the Tour of Azerbaijan. We're on the Baku circuit. That's 144 kilometres for the riders to complete this afternoon, for a total of well over 850 kilometres of racing over the 5 days. It's Park Hotel Valkenburg on the front of the bunch as they take them through the line one more time. Three riders still up front, but their advantage now not much more than 2.5 minutes. As Adrian Mobile massed towards the front, they've got the blue jersey of overall race leader Primož Roglic safely nestling in there, well to the fore, and lots of riders are really starting to feel the pinch. Right down the back is one of the representatives of the Cycling Academy squad. Oh, look at that, groups starting to get tailed off and wondering whether they can get in there. Now we've got Park Hotel Valkenburg on the front. Sitting fourth rider for them is Jasper Ukkelen, the man sitting second overall, 34 seconds back, and clearly they're winding up for a big one. They're really starting to put the hurt on the bunch, and more importantly, they're trying to see can they test Primož Roglic. Looking pretty comfortable at the moment. We're working our way through the Old Town. In Baku at the back, Ido Silberstein starting to feel the pinch a little bit. We're on this little extra loop that they've added into the final 3 circuits, so it was 8 laps of 12.8 kilometers, then the last 3 laps of 13.8 kilometers, and this little cobbled climb is an extra nasty little addition to the parkour this afternoon, and one that Silberstein is clearly not too happy about at the moment. Griffin Easter, well, feeling the pain as well, because Evtushenko, he's a big man, he's the biggest of all 3 in here, but he's got he develops good power, doesn't he?
Yeah, looking very strong on the bike indeed at the moment. Looks like a time trialist, and it's obviously a very good time trialist as well.
Well, there still has one, but this is an extra tester for the riders for the final 3 laps. So they've got this difficult little climb as well as that 1500 metre 7.5% climb that they've already done 8 times, with another 3 to go. So plenty of opportunities now for the GC guys. They'll know all about that. They've been starting to turn the screw, wind it up a little bit, put the hurt on several of the other teams in there, and by extension perhaps just burn a couple of matches in amongst Adrian Mobile. Look very calm and composed at the moment, do Adrian Mobile. They've got plenty of riders to the fore, including Primož Roglic in the blue jersey, and the man on the front in the green jersey of points leader Marco Kump, already a stage winner this week, and runaway leader in the points competition. Kump 6th yesterday, 2nd in the bunch sprint behind the 4 riders up front. 2nd the previous day after winning the bunch sprint behind Josh Edmondson. Pretty anonymous on stage 2, which was the big mountain stage that really caught so many riders out, massive time gaps throughout the bunch. And then of course Kump had taken the opening stage of the week's activities in emphatic style. Kump on the front as they head up this climb. Looks like Synergy Baku looking to get busy. Synergy Baku have the riders sitting 3rd overall, remember, Maciej Mugerli, Slovenian national road race champion, but with the Azerbaijan squad. Perhaps Synergy Baku looking to put a rider on the front and off the front.
Well, definitely putting a bit of pressure in on the peloton, although the thing with this is obviously to have a rider doing this kind of a job who's dangerous on the general classification, should he get a bit too much time. At the moment it's not really causing any massive reaction.
Yeah, clearly Adrian Mobile not concerned about the quality of that rider in terms of damaging their overall prospects, so they're happy to let him go. Qinchan Liu, Champion Systems, another rider struggling at the back at the moment. Drakpak have put a rider on the front. Absolutely beautiful scene.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
A little bit arduous, and it's narrow, isn't it?
It is relatively narrow, but nice little back roads here that they're going up, and certainly hard enough with the cobblestones on there as well, and quite a relatively steep climb.
Yeah, it's a steep climb. No sign of any rain this week. Blue skies above. Balmy early summer weather for the riders. Perfect conditions for racing. And that cobble climb would be a different prospect if it was raining. That's not the case. It's a These three riders now starting to detach themselves from the peloton. Doesn't look like Keane is too keen on this one.
Well, descending on cobblestones is an interesting thing to do, to say the least. It's
wet or dry.
Wet or dry. I mean, if it's wet, then it's potentially lethal. But even in the dry, it's difficult to get any kind of feel for what the bike is doing, how much grip you got underneath you, and how much brake you can actually put on without anything sort of happening.
Replay from the front a few moments ago. Marco Kump looking very comfortable on the front, and just one of his teammates goes down, and that's a little inconvenient. Looked like could that have been Chris Horner that was delayed, one of the Airgas Safeway riders, and that was an absolutely perfect illustration of what Magnus Bäckstedt was just telling us.
Too much brake, too much front brake going into that corner, and you get a bit of a bounce on the front wheel, and that's it. It washes out for you. So it is extremely difficult to cope with the cobblestones on a descent. You've got to keep your bike completely straight, and then brake as much as you can, and then let go of the brakes, and then turn. That's the only real way that you're going to get around a cobble descent safely.
Right, you can't be braking and turning because it's just so easy to lock up on the cobbles.
I mean, braking and turning at any point is a silly thing to sort of get yourself into. I mean, if you're incredibly good at bike handling skills and you've got such good, really good feel for the brakes, and effectively you are a very, very seasoned bike rider, then you can start playing around with adjusting your speed through the corners, and obviously depending on whether you pull the front brake a little bit or whether you pull the back brake, you can effectively tweak the apex and sort of make the apex come back in a bit, or drift out a little bit. So if you pull the front brake, the bike washes away and he opens up, and you actually drift a bit wider around the corner. And if you pull the back brake, then it actually tightens up the exit line a little bit. That's something that's way
MotoGP stuff, isn't it?
That's MotoGP stuff.
Yeah.
That's way up there in terms of your bike handling skills, and it's, like I said, you are starting to play with. There's only a question of time before you do it wrong and you come down. So the general rule is brake in a straight line, let go of the brakes, bank the bike over, and turn through the corner.
Do it to the level you're comfortable at, and then don't find the limit by exceeding it, because you'll end up on the seat of your pants. So Griffin Easter, looks like it's all up for him. Struggled a bit on the descent from that climb in the Old Town. And now just two up front, it's Alexander Evtushenko of Rusvelo, who's really putting immense amounts of pain into Ido Zilberstein. I'm not sure how much longer he can last, because Zilberstein looks over his shoulder to see if Griffin Easter is there. He's not. The gap has been pared down significantly, well under 2 minutes. Drop back, showing plenty of ambition on what is now a much reduced peloton. Groups at 6 and 7. I'd say the group has been at least halved at the moment. Still plenty of riders desperately scrabbling to stay in contention, but one climb immediately followed by another. Well, these riders are feeling an awful lot of pain, but this is a pretty impressive job being done on the front.
Well, definitely the pace is going up in the peloton, and there's loads of riders now starting to feel this, and we're getting into the final couple of laps, and it's also, if you're not up there on GC, you haven't got a possibility maybe of winning today's stage, then every time you're doing a circuit race like this, you're going past the showers, it's incredibly tempting to just turn back in there. If your team doesn't really, well, if you can't do anything for your team, you're just hanging on there, trying to get to the finish line. I know a lot of riders who are very tempted many times of just pulling the pin a couple of laps early.
So far away. Yes.
Exactly.
It's the evils of circuit racing. And of course you know exactly what this hill is going to be like, because you've been up it so many times, and if you're really suffering, it's not like you can kid yourself and say, well, the next hill mightn't be so bad, or it might be a little bit further away. You just know exactly what's waiting, and it just becomes like a water torture, only worse. So two riders up front, Evtushenko absolutely flying. Silverstein doing a great job to stay with him. Just 21 years of age. First year on the team, first year in the existence of this, the first ever Israeli professional cycling team. And he's showcasing his ability very impressively. 7th on a stage of the Carpathian Couriers under 23 race already this year. 17th on GC there, so solid results for a young man on the squad, which has Peter Sagan as a patron. Silverstein's not going to be there for much longer. Look at the way Evtushenko's really powering away. Nothing held back now.
No, that's a TT man in full flight, and
when he gets a flick of the elbow, give me a hand. No. Well, look at that. Silverstein goes through, does what he can. He knows he has to for as long as he possibly can.
Well, that's
impressive.
It's never fun when you end up in that position. You're on the wheel of a guy taking a turn, and you're literally on the limit trying to hold his wheel, and all of a sudden he flicks his elbow and moves out and asks you to come through, and there's just...
And how much of an effort do you make when you come through? Because you're just waiting and waiting for this guy to come around you like a motorbike. Yeah, it's a tough one, but Silverstein is hanging on grimly, doing a great job. We just got a quick side-on post chain reaction, just starting to gather towards the front of the main bunch. Perhaps they have ambitions to launch. Josh Edmondson sitting 5th overall. Conor Dunn gave them a nice 3rd place finish yesterday. It's a bit and lump out there, isn't it? It's a little bit from Silverstein, big lumps from Evtushenko. And now the Kazakh national team are getting involved off the front. Looks like Rusvelo and Drapak showing plenty of ambition as well. Little look over his shoulder for the rider in the sky blue of the Kazakh national squad. Hectic activity. So now this rider from the Kazakh national squad is pushing hard to get on terms. And doesn't look like they're able to get up to him too quickly. Adrian Mobil's starting to put manners on the front of the bunch as he looks over his shoulder, feeling the pain. I'd love to get a number, know exactly who this is, because these riders, well, there's great strength and depth in the Kazakh national team. Their best placed rider, having said that, is 11th overall, Alexander Shushimon, 3 minutes and 56 seconds back. You've got another rider, Bijkatov, 20th at 4:43, so a couple of good climbers in there. And the bunch behind, starting to mass across the road, giving you the indication perhaps that they're satisfied to let this rider have his moment of glory off the front. Another side of the flame towers that represent modern Baku, a nation whose wealth is founded on the vast reserves of oil and natural gas. Evtushenko saying, well, give me a dig when you can, probably something like that. If you can, please do. Otherwise,
well, I think
it's all about me.
It was a question of let's keep working as hard as we can together and see how long we can stay out here for. And Evtushenko really looking very, very good on his bike.
Yeah, hooks the hands inside those Campagnolo brake levers and just locks himself into the powerhouse position of a man who is a time trialist by nature. That is Zemlyakov, 43rd overall, 11 minutes down. Sitting well on his bike, hanging out of the biggest gear he can possibly manage, not such a high cadence. He's absolutely flying along, and he's holding off a baying pack of riders, inching closer to the finish line. I'm looking for an exact number of kilometers remaining, something in the order of about 30, I would imagine. It'll be just over 27 kilometres remaining when they hit the finish line next time round. It's a 13.8 kilometre circuit, so that's 27.6 kilometres remaining at the finish line next time round. And I feel confident that we're going to see an attack at some stage from Jesper Ökkelund, sitting second overall. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday to Jesper. He's 25 years of age, the Dutch rider.
I'm sure he'd like us to give himself a nice little birthday present there.
Oh, look at the way Evtushenko puts about 5 bike lengths into Silverstein there. It was just a lack of attention, really. The concentration must be so difficult for this rider. He's been under so much pressure, and now he needs to make an absolutely massive effort to get back into the wheel. He does it with impressive facility, actually.
Well, he does, but then he'll get onto the wheel and Evtushenko will just flick his elbow and ask him to come through right as that happens. That's the worst bit. But
I've just made a bigger effort than you did.
It basically just messed up the apex of that corner, and that just goes to show how much time you can take out of someone if you got the line going right.
And you can get in touch on Twitter. We're here all day, as we have been all week, and it's at Maggie_PR, at DQ Sport for myself, hashtag Home of Cycling. Suzanne Wolf is with us today, as indeed green gold for me. I don't know much about Azerbaijan, but Baku looks to be a fascinating city. It is absolutely fascinating. I've been there, and it is a fast developing country, really at a rate of knots. Massive oil wealth and huge pride, of course. It's an independent nation since 1990. 2 minutes 10 to the main group behind, so the gap had come down under 2 minutes. Now it's extended, maybe 10-20 seconds inside the last few kilometres. A signal that hostilities have ceased for a little while in the main group is perhaps the fact that Zemnyakov of the Kazakh national squad is able to survive off the front for as long as he has. Powering along, 43rd overall, as I said, just under 11 minutes in arrears. 21 years of age, second year on the team. The Kazakh national squad, also titled Vino Forever. Vinokurov still very much a national hero in Kazakhstan. Second in the Asian Cycling Championships road race in 2014, Zelniakov, so super strong rider. Youth classification winner of the Tour of Philippines this year, 11th on GC in Tour of Taiwan, and probably most notably second in the National Championship individual time trial of Kazakhstan in 2014, so comfortable enough riding on his own. So now just 27.5 kilometres remaining for these two riders up front. Silverstein, who has the honour of leading the riders through on the penultimate occasion across the finish line. Well, it's actually third last time, isn't it, across the finish line? Evtushenko takes it up on the front once more. And Silverstein looked like he was really struggling. So sure that I won't come back to him a little bit. Now we have Griffin Easter, who's in between. He's unzipped his jersey, just trying to get a bit of warmth in there, or a bit of cool air. Almost a minute back. He's persevering. He's not just thinking, well, I'll wait for the bunch, try and save a little bit of energy and see if I can last for a little while longer. It looks like he's still riding on. You gotta love that about him. He's absolutely trying his heart out. 2 days in a row. And now Zemnyakov. Oops, needed a couple of bites of that one. Laid it over a little bit early, but well, the roads are very wide, huge boulevards here. and it's as safe a finish as you could possibly have in world cycling. I hope I'm not putting the mockers on them there, but it's at least the roads are safe.
Well, the roads are wide enough. That doesn't necessarily mean they're safer. It just means that more riders can mass up on the shorter sort of space of road.
There's going to be a few coming into that final corner, aren't there?
Yeah.
Zelniakov hasn't really managed to open up a huge advantage over the main bunch chasing behind. 2 laps remaining for them. On post chain reactions putting riders onto the front. Josh Edmondson, I think, is planning something coming up pretty soon. We're waiting for the fireworks to be lit. Well, they're moving into the centre, and the man is about to strike the match, I think, for the fireworks. The lift out over the Baku skyline any moment now. Fireworks during the day, the very idea. Silverstein hanging on. It's Evtushenko that's going to do the work up this hill. The smaller man not enjoying this cobble climb. It's just about short enough for and it looks easy, doesn't it? But those cobbles really, and a little bit.
That's the same corner as we just had the crash on earlier. It looks like there's a bit of something going on.
Yeah, lack of grip there. Just a couple of shiny cobbles that catching the riders out. Quite the grip level they'd like, and especially when you're quite certain about the turn-in point. And there's a wonderful graphic illustration. It's not quite the cobbles that you'll get in Flanders, but they're tough enough. Silverstein looks like he hasn't planned anything in his life beyond getting to the top of this hill on the wheel of Evtushenko.
Some nice good gaps between those cobbles as well, so it'll be proper nice and bouncy for them.
Yeah. Very pleasant, as long as you don't have to cycle up them. Evtushenko looks like the bike is moving around a little bit underneath him. Extra effort there from Silverstein, just a little extra ramp, not a couple of percent. Added to the gradient, and here the main bunch about to arrive at the same hill. Into the Old Town. On post chain reactions on the front. They've got Josh Edmondson sitting 5th overall, 3 minutes and 49 seconds in arrears. Here is Klemnikov. He's picked up Griffin Easter from the Zelnikov it is that's picked up Griffin Easter from the early break. And they're just moments in front of the main bunch, led by On Post Chain Reactions. A team organised and run by Sean Kelly. And a couple of riders have gone down on that corner. Looks like it's caught out one of the Hrinkov Adverits cycling team.
One of the Baku riders as well.
They'll know all about it the next lap. They should have known about it already, so it's clearly a couple of shiny cobbles. Zemliakov, it is off the front of the main peloton, but for how much longer? As out front, those 2 riders still toiling in the Baku sunshine. On post chain reaction still pushing behind. Could well be Ryan Mullen is there or thereabouts as well. They've got about 3 riders on the front. You can be sure Josh Edmondson isn't too far away.
No. Wait.
Zemliakov, a time trialist of note from Kazakhstan, soloing off the front. And as they go up this hill, it becomes all about athletics. His gap is being maintained, if not even extended. The bunch snakes its way up this cobble climb. Zemlyakov gingerly picking his way down this cobbled descent. It's one thing going up them, but going down them really is a bit of a challenge. The Koppenberg, of course, a couple of years ago, they took out the descent.
Yeah, I think the big man for that. I've done that descent a number of times, and both on my wheels and on my backside, and it's not a pretty one to do. So I'm happy that they made it safer there in Wevelgem. This though is it's not as steep, and certainly the speeds aren't quite as high. You can control the bike going down here, although it is difficult.
It's not raining either.
It's not raining either, which obviously makes it okay.
Conor Donnie's a big man, biggest man in the peloton, one of the biggest in world cycling, and well, centre of gravity is not quite as low as it is for some of the other riders. A very difficult moment. Of course, his legs are going to be feeling it as well. He was in the break yesterday. Great third place finish for him on that occasion. Did great work on the back end of the first stage to try and set something up for Idis Kropus. Oh, and problems.
Yeah, it's Josh Edmondson. They're going through that corner and just getting a bit of a slip on it, and there's clearly something going on the very inside of that turn.
Yeah, and that's the replay of other riders coming to grief on that little right-hander. Chancy little right-hander. We saw one of the Adria Mobile riders going down the previous lap, and so many delayed in the bunch. That's a little bit of extra confusion you don't need. Synergy Baku.
Ines Azadov.
Of course, we saw him up the road earlier for quite a while, the national road race champion of Azerbaijan. 125 now, their advantage has been slashed a bit lately. So clear the gaps being given by way of instruction, really.
Yeah, it tends to happen quite a bit actually with the commissaire in doing the time gaps for you in the lead car, and well, certainly when you're in the breakaway, and then you got the blackboard in the car, or in the peloton. Sorry.
Commissar taking his job very seriously indeed, much to the appreciation, I'm sure, of the riders. And now riders perhaps not appreciating the man who designed this course, because it's becoming increasingly challenging. As we see the man in the mountains jersey, Surutkovits, buried in the main bunch. 3 climbs. The final one will be at the top of this hill with 22 kilometers remaining. As we see now, looks as if it's all up for Zemlyakov. Zemlyakov, well, I said all up, but perhaps a couple of riders could just clip across to him, give him the extra legs that he needs. Evtushenko and Zilberstein still persevering out front on the final stage of Tour of Azerbaijan. We're in Baku, the circuit race into the final couple of laps, and this is the scene just off the front of the main bunch. They're about just under a minute and a half behind the 2 riders we saw on screen a moment ago, and looks like the same composition of riders that have decided to clip off the main group, joined by Zemlyakov, who's been out front for a little while. So we've got Rusvelo and Cycling Academy up the front. We've got Rusvelo and Cycling Academy off the front of the bunch as well.
But why are they attacking when they got a man up the front and causing a chase in the peloton and so on?
Every man for himself tactics.
Well, clearly it seems like it, but I just don't get that. What they should be doing instead is actually trying to slow down the peloton and block the road. They know they got a strong man up in the break. Then just chill out. Make sure you're trying to slow down the peloton as much as you can. Certainly on the narrow sections, then you can, and just get yourself straight into the.
This is Sergei Fursinov. He's sitting 8th overall, 3 minutes and 50 seconds in arrears. He's the best placed rider from the Rusvelo squad, so he's obviously got free rein to do what he wants. Maybe they just feel that Evtushenko's coming back sooner or later, so might as well get on with doing the racing. It's an unusual situation, but he's persevering, ploughing on regardless. Primož Roglic in the main peloton, looking relatively comfortable at the moment, in as much as anyone can look relatively comfortable on this climb.
Yeah, but again, he's got 3 minutes and 50 seconds to play too on for this man. So I'm sort of expecting the likes of Synergy back will get on the front. Park Hotel will get on. Well, maybe not Park Hotel so much, but and certainly Josh Edmondson should be very keen on making sure that this guy gets brought back, because Josh is currently 5th at 3:49, and then you've got a couple of riders here on 3 minutes and 50 seconds. So for Edmondson, this is very important to bring back, and that's what I mean. You've got 2 strong riders out front here, or certainly 1 strong Rosvello rider out front. What we're having here now with Firzanov going up the road is just basically dragging the whole peloton back up to those guys.
He's providing a very obvious carrot, isn't he, to what is still a very, very big group of riders behind, with En Post Chain Reactions setting the tempo on the front and trying perhaps to set something up for Josh Edmondson next time up the hill. This is the final classified climb of the day of Parliament Prospecti, but they've got to go up it once more, along with that cobble climb in the Old Town. And the combination of that offers opportunities still. Opportunities for these riders, well, they're dwindling at this point. Silverstein still giving a turn to Evtushenko when he can, but 40 seconds was what we saw on the whiteboard for those riders, so they're coming back. And at this moment, I suspect that Firstenov will have his teammate Evtushenko in sight.
Yeah, it probably will, but
so too will the main bunch have Firstenov in sight, and he's just a carrot there, isn't he?
I just cannot get my head around this.
Interesting tactics being employed by Rosvello this afternoon. Certainly difficult to predict and to understand. Adrian Mobile does seem to be able to handle it at the moment.
Well, I could see this kind of a move on the final lap should there be an opportunity for it, and with that you can probably hold on to the end of the stage as well if you're trying something like this. But to go with a lap and a bit to go, and you still got a teammate up front as well. It's very, very questionable in my book of tactics.
Interesting tactics, but Sergei Firstenov is absolutely committed to this one, pushing as hard as he possibly knows how at the moment to try and hold off what is still a very substantial pack of riders led by En Post Chain Reactions. But Firstenov, his advantage, can't be much more than 20 seconds at the moment. 40 seconds the last advantage we saw for the 2 riders up front. They've been up there all day. Alexander Evtushenko of the Rosvello squad, teammate of the man in picture, and Ido Zilberstein of Israel and the cycling academy of his home nation. Also up there, Griffin Easter has been gathered back into the fold. Those were the 3 riders. Crowds massing in Baku ahead of the finish as we survey the scene over Heydar Aliyev Park. And so many sights, so many banners up in evidence of the Zilberstein. He said he was only given the occasional turn to Evtushenko, but he's looking stronger and stronger, and we really have to pay tribute to his efforts. Behind it's Firstenov. 32 years of age now. He's won a lot of stage races through his time. And the Boucle d'Artois in 2009. Make a list. He's got a very, very strong palmarès in terms of winning races at this level, GC. So this is he's got the experience.
Yeah, definitely. We've also seen that Francesc Ziziv is getting up onto the front of the peloton here with the En Post riders and starting to do some work as well, because Ziziv is 7th on GC, and obviously with Virsanov going up the road here now, that's jeopardising his overall position.
So František Caesar defending his position in the overall standings. Yeah, Virsanov sitting 8th overall as we get the...
Well, if Rosvelo's tactics here now is right, then Evtuchenko at this point need to back off the front here, go back and get his teammate, put everything he's got into it for as long as he possibly can, and then go. It's only 13 seconds, I think, between
between the two up front and this man behind.
And then a further 20 seconds back. So
will Evtuchenko be minded to forget about his own personal ambitions and think about his rider behind, as we see on post chain reactions have strength and depth there, and have Josh Edmondson. Oh, and look at who it is.
I think
for last man standing, Ido Zilberstein decides to...
I think it's just having Evtuchenko's just having a look around to see what's happening with his teammate. He's obviously been told that something is happening. It's obviously seen the board as well that he's got a teammate behind him, and he's trying to work out what the situation is and what the best game plan is going to be for him, because I think he'd be slightly confused at this point in terms of, hang on a minute, I've been out here all day and I have had a good gap, so why are they all of a sudden riding on me and trying to bring me back? So yeah, he needs to back off here now and go and get his teammate.
So Virsanov freewheeling for as long as he possibly dares. 13 seconds the distance he has to make up to this man, Evtuchenko. Zilberstein pushing hard on the front, wondering what to do. Yeah, so somewhere between 13 and 20 seconds. It's fluctuating. We're getting conflicting reports, but there's certainly not much between them. They can see it, so they know exactly what's involved. Pretty impressive by Bayan Post to get 4 riders to the fore at this point. What can they do about getting Josh Edmondson into position? The man from Leeds in Yorkshire.
Well, I think they just want to try and protect Josh's positions as it is. There isn't an awful lot they can really do. Josh is at 3:49, and then the next best rider is Chris Horner, who's currently 4th, but he's only 34 seconds down. So there's
could it be that Post are thinking about setting something up for Ryan Mullen for a late attack, or maybe Aidis Kropis just trying to get organised for the sprint? You'd imagine it's all about Josh Edmondson, but this, like you say, it's going to be very difficult for him to make up even one position on overall, given but maybe he's just a great opportunity for stage honours. That's probably the real...
Well, I think that the first thing is to look after the GC, make sure that Josh gets over this next climb in a good position. When you get over that climb, then let's have a look and see who we got still in there, who's going good and who's what we can actually do. And at that point, you start playing for stage honours. But GC first, and then the stage after.
Zilberstein still has a few bike lengths advantage over Evtuchenko. Doesn't know whether to ride back to him or not. And it looks we've got a very, very interesting situation where we've got 3 individual time trials in operation off the front of a peloton by about 20 seconds. So it's every man for himself, as we say. It's more like a junior race this, but entertaining for all that. Zilberstein pushing hard. He's doing exactly what he ought to do. Evtuchenko should probably at this point have throttled back and just wait for his teammate.
I'm sorry, but this is the exact situation that you do need the race radio from the team manager to be able to tell these guys that this is not right, do this instead. You can't,
But should they not already know, especially a man like Virsanov who's been around a long time?
After the stage, it's difficult to kind of have a chat about things, and this clearly could have been done in a much better way and guide these riders to understand what they should do.
Interesting tactics being employed by Rosvelo, and no doubt Sergei Honchar will have something to say afterwards. Zilberstein's pushing to be last man standing from the 3-man break. Looks like he's going to manage to make it to the bell. hanging on in front of the peloton, and that constitutes a proud moment for him. It's been a brave effort. The early break is not going to be successful 2 days in a row in the Tour of Azerbaijan, but he is at least going to be the first man to hear the bell. So now just 13.8 kilometres remaining. On-post chain reaction leading them through. Synergy back at the local team in their wheels. Adria Mobile in line astern behind them, with the overall race leader Primož Roglic looking strong.
It's an 8-second gap there between the two Rosvelo riders and the peloton.
And now they finally knit it up. Evtushenko, oh no, it's actually Firsinov that rides up to Zilberstein. So
I don't think they're going to be hanging out up there for too much longer, looking at the peloton and the way that they are pressing on.
Zilberstein's done. Firsinov puts a bit of distance between himself and the two riders who were in the early break, so he's not going to get much of a help from them. The on-post chain reactions squad are assisting each other in their efforts to set a vicious tempo. Evtushenko back into the bunch. He's feeling his legs at the moment. It's been a great effort from him. Strong man off the break, and clearly a man with a big future. Firsinov looks over his shoulder, realises, well, he realises two things. One thing is that Evtushenko's gone. The other thing is, here come the bunch. Brave effort, but little reward. Questionable tactics. But Firsinov felt he had to try something.
Yeah, fair play. You know, you've got to take your hat off to him for trying. He's actually the only one out of the guys so far who's actually tried something. But you know, I think it would have been better to wait for the final lap to make that kind of an effort. He clearly had some good legs on him. Wait for the final climb and give it a go there. But we're setting this up now to be potentially very interesting final climb. Certainly with the likes of An Post now driving on, they're very keen on setting something up for the stage. And is that going to be for Edmondson to attack, or is it going to be for a sprint?
Well, they've had a pretty good race so far. A stage win courtesy of Josh Edmondson on day 3, and then that third place finish for Conor Dunn yesterday. Idus Kropis 9th across the line, 4th in the bunch sprint. Oh, and as they hit the cobbles, you get an indication of just how little grip there is in there. You really put the power down. The traction is difficult to harness under wheel, as Synergy Baku really pushing on.
Is that the tricky corner?
Yeah, is that the tricky little ride? And we safely through it, and Airgas Safeway rider behind. Is it Horner?
Horner is in the second wheel there of the Airgas riders, second of the, well, third on the rider on the road.
First 3 safely through. First main body of the peloton making it through safely. They've all figured out how to ride that corner, with having seen it a couple of times. And now the attack's coming. Here comes Chris Horner. And so too Jasper Ökälen, I'll be bound, is also making his presence felt on the front. Ökälen, 25 years of age today. The distinctive features as well of Chris Horner from Airgas Safeway goes to the front. All seems relatively cool, calm and collected. And look at the way the overall race leader Primož Roglic is just motorbiking his way back up through the riders. But is he going to get there in time? This is a danger. Well, he's managed to latch onto a group of 4 or 5 riders, led by the man sitting 4th overall, 34 seconds behind Primož Roglic. So he really needs to press on this hill and perhaps the next one if he's to have any chance of overhauling the overall race leader Primož Roglic. As Chris Horner has a little look over his shoulder, realises that he's joined by riders, but he has separated Roglic from his teammates, so perhaps worth persevering with this for a little while. Jasper Ökälen is encouraged to have a go, and he starts to put in a serious dig. Roglic, though, looks like he's covered this one.
Yeah, he's definitely done a very, very impressive ride there to get back up onto the wheel of his main rivals. But I do feel that the final threat is not over just yet.
So now 10 kilometres remaining in the final stage of Tour of Azerbaijan 2015. As the riders have made their way up the penultimate climb of the day, they've got another little 1500 metre stretch that offers opportunities for stage honours and perhaps to just shake up the overall classification as riders are coming through with big gaps between them, 2s and 3s, as they scrabble to get back onto the wheel of the riders in front. How big is the main bunch going to be as they go to the line? Probably substantial, but certainly not as big as it was when they set off this morning.
Yeah, quite like to see the front of the race here now to see what's going on, who's pressing on.
Little replay of just how tricky that corner is, but Airgas Safeway rider behind just managing to safely negotiate it. Chris Horner sitting third wheel, left enough of a gap and managed to get through there without too much difficulty. So a couple of Airgas Safeway riders, a couple of riders from Team Valkenburg, and now the lead group, not much more than 10 riders with 10 kilometres remaining. How many more are going to be able to join in? Synergy Baku on the attack inside the final 10 kilometres. How dearly they would love to come home with a victory on the final day of their home race.
They certainly would, and with that being Mate Mugerli as well, he's got an opportunity to move up on GC as well. He's on the same time as Jasper Åkerlund.
And who's the one that's got to chase it? It's Primož Roglic, the overall race leader. He's left isolated now. His Adria Mobile squad have done absolutely fantastic work
Watch
this
the
week.
attack coming out from Chris Horner though.
Yeah, Chris Horner's shaping up, sitting third wheel. Here he comes. It was predicted by Magnus Backstedt. It was predicted by pretty much everyone else. And it looks like it's just one of those little leg tests. Doesn't look like a full-blooded attack. Just trying to see what sort of danger he's put Primož Roglic into. And Jasper Åkerlund sitting second overall on the same time as Chris Horner, 34 seconds behind the man sitting third wheel here in the overall race leader's jersey in blue. And it's an opportunistic attack from one of the riders from the Kazakh national team, and the overall contenders are not going to be interested in that, but I think they do need to put the pressure on for a little, because well, they need to make the most of this hill if they're going to get the gap they need to overhaul Primož Roglic.
Yeah, I think that opportunity is just about gone here.
Maybe looking at stage honours, and riders are starting to clip back in and get back into contention.
Looks like Unpost has actually missed out on this one now after riding so hard for that final lap.
Disappointment for Unpost Chain Reaction. Stage win, third place finish, and really tried to perhaps set up Josh Edmondson, but it looks like he's to the fore in the chasing group. But this group of 10 riders, led by Maciej Mugerli, and then chasing this lone rider from the Kazakh national squad. Well, they had Zemliakov, who was pushing hard a little early on. Their best placed rider is Schumann, Alexander Schumann, 11th overall. 3 minutes and 56 seconds back. There are two Kazakh national riders have made this split, and I'm wondering whether not the 10 riders behind are going to be joined by the next group on the road that are chasing, because there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of aggression in that group behind, is there?
No, it certainly doesn't. 8.8 kilometers to go as well. It's going to be an interesting final here. Are they going to be able to stay away?
Schumann it is indeed, the best placed rider from the Kazakh national team, 11th overall, 3 minutes and 56, and a great opportunity for him to vault up to third over to fifth, I think. Josh Edmondson's 5th overall could well be under threat as we see Valkenburg represented.
Fersanov is going away again with Åkerlund.
Jasper Åkerlund sitting 2nd overall. Sergei Fersanov hasn't run out of breakfast yet. Was that Josh Edmondson at the front of the chasing group? There's just not enough activity in that group behind, so there's every chance, I think, that Schumann could well hang on at least to the top of the hill.
Well,
and
I think
Åkerlund going to be able to get over to him, so this is an interesting development. First enough, looking to protect and perhaps enhance his general classification position, is also in with an opportunity to take something here, and they're just looking at each other behind as the group are coming up. 8 kilometers.
certainly Åkerlund here is gone up the road. He's only 34 seconds down, so it's up now to Roglic and his teammates to press on.
It's absolutely flat chat. First enough, grappling his way back onto the wheel of the 25-year-old Dutchman Jasper Ukkelen of Team Valkenburg, who looks over his shoulder to see that he's still hanging on to this advantage. Meanwhile, Primož Roglic is being towed back up to those three riders. Chris Horner looking over his shoulder. Surely no opportunity for a late attack from a man who's predominantly a climber. Things are looking good for Primož Roglic, but he does need to give a hand himself in the chase.
Big group now.
Yeah, it's a much bigger group. That second group on the road has managed to knit itself back up with the leading group. So a couple of riders from On Post Chain Reactions will be relieved about that. Primarily, of course, Josh Edmondson. We believe he's managed to make it in there. František Cícer, sitting 7th overall, is also safely back in the fold. That'll protect his 7th place overall. But having said that, Sergej Firstenov, level on time with Cícer, has an opportunity to move up. He's the man sitting 2nd here in the red jersey, the Russian, with the Rusvelo squad, rolling through to the front, followed by Alexander Schuschmann of the Kazakh national team. And 3rd in line, representing the Netherlands and Team Valkenburg in the yellow, is Jasper Ukkelen, sitting 2nd overall. There's confirmation of the lead group. What's their advantage? It's a narrow one. We've just 8 kilometers remaining in Tour of Azerbaijan.
Ukkelen just having a quick look around to see is it worth persevering with this one, but I've got to tell you, you've got to go just ride and ride and ride until you got nothing left to ride with.
Yeah, he's going to need these two riders. They're going to have to ride together. Surely they don't have what it takes to go solo.
Well, if it was me in Ukkelen's shoes here now, I would just basically get on the front and just take turns like you've never taken them before.
Stage honour's not of interest to him.
Not of interest of any sort whatsoever. It's got 3 minutes and 3 minutes and 20 seconds effectively down to the two riders on his wheel in terms of general classification. So all he needs to worry about is driving, trying to get as much time as he possibly can on the guys behind him. If these two guys are happy to take a turn, fantastic, but you should not think about asking them for a turn. Flick with your elbow. If they come through, great. If they don't, then just keep on going.
But he gives a flick. He gets the assistance of Sergej Firstenov, and they've put some daylight between themselves and the group behind, and it is just 2 riders that are chasing, so it's 3 against 2 at the moment. That's the situation as it prevails. 9 seconds the advantage when he needs quite a bit more than that. 34 seconds between the man in blue and the man in yellow up front going into today's final stage. And the two riders, the other two riders, of course, have an opportunity to move up on general classification, but more importantly, of course, for them, there's a great chance of stage honours.
Yeah, I mean, they can't really move an awful lot up on the general classification, these two riders, but you know, they can certainly put themselves just behind Chris Horner. So 5th and 6th is up for grabs.
5th's on offer, and you wonder if Josh Edmondson might be minded to just move up and perhaps give a dig out. Doesn't look as if he's that concerned about it at the moment. Maybe he's thinking about a late solo attack if they manage to tow back the 3 riders. He wouldn't be the only one thinking that in here. They're going to leave it up to those 2 riders on the front of the bunch, and plenty of riders that would like to get across that 11-second gap now. So it's starting to extend as the flick of the elbow comes from Primož Roglic, who might be getting a little bit concerned.
Well, no doubt is he going to be concerned, because it's a final very big charge from these 3 riders, and 11 seconds is I mean, he doesn't take a lot to lose a bit more.
Doesn't take a lot indeed, and there's nothing being held back by all 3 riders here, as we see Firstenov burying his head over the stem, his shoulders rocking. It's all going into the pedals as much as he possibly can. Inside 5 kilometers to go.
You just wonder though if Firstenov had saved the legs that he used on the last attack that he did on the penultimate lap. Put all of that in here instead. Could he have had a bit more to ride with?
Radoslav Regina doing superb work for the overall race leader Primož Roglic. They're wearing yellow dossards. They're the leading team. They've had 2 stage victories so far this week. They've got the points wrapped up. Have they got the blue jersey wrapped up? Still in doubt, because up front in the yellow of Team Valkenburg and the Netherlands. It's his birthday today. Could he celebrate his 25th birthday with overall success in the Tour of Azerbaijan? Looks like a tall order, but don't rule it out, because the gap is going up between these 3 riders and the 2 riders that are chasing. I say there's 2 riders chasing. This group must be 30 in there at the moment. Still, it's just 10 seconds between them, so it's holding steady at the moment with 5 kilometers remaining. It's going to be tough, but I'll tell you what, Öcalan is not holding anything back. Primož Roglic on the front, he's having to do the work.
Well, Roglic is definitely having to take turns, and he's now getting some help from one of the air gas riders, but Roglic is taking such a hard turn that his teammate is struggling to hold the wheel.
Superb work being done by Primož Roglic. Interesting that Airgas Safeway have decided to put a rider in there. I'm not exactly sure what Chris Horner feels he's protecting. He's actually behind, even though he's level on time with Öcalan. Maybe he feels that they have a chance of stage honours. Maybe there's a couple of them in there. And it's coming down, 8 seconds, so another couple of seconds shaved off it inside the final 2.5 kilometres. Will these 3 riders battle out for stage honours? This is now becoming increasingly the main consideration. Öcalan will battle all the way to the line. All 3 riders will push as hard as they know how, because they're trying to stay out front of this group behind. Primož Roglic is absolutely flat out. He's assisted by his Adria Mogul team from Slovenia. That's Regina. He's doing a superb work, and Öcalan
is just putting everything he has into this, and it isn't a big
Roglic
big
is dropping the whole group the way things are going, because Regina, and indeed that rider from was it Horner actually now, has moved up onto the wheel.
Well, Roglic doesn't really have to worry about where he finishes in this group. He just needs to be on the same time as everyone else, and with that, you know, it's up to him to try and close the gap.
Well, look at the way that Roglic has lined out this group. You might have been of the mind that they were all just sitting in and thinking about the sprint. Well, there's a few riders that really have achy legs in there and not finding it that easy to stay there at all, because Primož Roglic is absolutely flying. Could well be towing them back up. 1,400 metres remaining as First enough pushes on as best he can, assisted by Shushamon of Kazakhstan and the man sitting second overall, Jasper Öcalan. Will they manage to hang on? Marco Kump, of course, is sitting in the group behind, so Roglic, has he managed to make it on? I'm not, the green jersey could well be in there, and a great chance of another stage.
Well, I haven't seen Kump in there, but if he is, then that could be a reason why Roglic is now taking such a big turn.
It would certainly be a very generous thing to do, as now we see riders starting to clip off the front, trying to...
Mugli.
Yes, the man sitting third overall, Maciej Mugli, the national champion of Slovenia, former teammate of Primož Roglic, now with the local Synergy Baku squad, and I don't think he's managed to establish enough of an advantage. These 3 riders are going to be caught. We're well inside the final kilometre of the final stage of Tour of Azerbaijan, and they're winding up for the big sprint as first enough battles to try and stay clear. Shushamon battles to try and get his wheel. Öcalan realises that the game is up, and those 2 riders just have a narrow advantage through the last couple of turns inside the final 500 metres. First enough, piling it on. Will he be able to hang on? Hang on, in front of the bunch behind. It's going to be a blanket finish. I tell you, Shushamon isn't going to get there, or is he? First enough is dying a million deaths. He's inside the final 300 metres. Will he hang on? First enough, amazing power all the way to the line. Inside the final 50 metres, inside the final 25. First enough gets it ahead of Shushamon. And would you believe it, Maciej Mugli hung on for 3rd place. So that was just riders absolutely lined out, and it didn't seem as if anyone was able to launch a sprint, because they gave absolutely everything. It was a wonderful finale, superb effort, and well, he might bless himself, because that was a fantastic effort from First Enough, who refused to give in and absolutely willed himself to the line. Amazing power generated, and he takes a famous victory on the final stage of Tour of Azerbaijan. Primož Roglic hangs on to his overall lead, so no change in the overall battle. in the overall standings after a fine battle over the last couple of laps, and it's a great circuit, isn't it? And it really wound up to a big conclusion. Roglic accepts the congratulations of his team. No final stage victory, but it's been a week of domination for Adria Mobil. They take a couple of stage wins, they take overall honours, they take the points competition. And first enough, looks like he could well have moved up overall, Magnus.
Depends on what the commissaires are saying in terms of the gap, if there was enough of a gap between them or not. And to me, that's a good second or two, and I think that's why Mughal is really trying so hard to catch back on, is to make sure, because Mughal is at 3:49 and Firsanov is at 3:50. So was there a second between those guys there?
I'd put a second in there.
I'd put a second in there, if not two.
Mughal, yeah. And that's all there was between them.
Maybe 1 second actually.
Did he need two? Yeah.
Well, he needs one to get on equal terms with Mughal. No, sorry, I'm completely mistaken in misdoing this.
Edmondson, yeah.
Edmondson, I was thinking, yeah.
No doubt about the man who got the stage honours. It was Firsanov of Russ Velo. They're out front all day in the early break. We questioned their tactics, but he held on for the stage win. Amazing. Interesting tactics employed by Russ Velo, but certainly kept us guessing, kept everyone guessing. There's the confirmation of the stage success. They're putting him second between Sergei Firsanov of Russ Velo, Shushman in second on the same time. Matthew Mughal is second behind. Caesar gets up for fourth on the stage. Chris Horner well to the fore, but no change overall. So we wait for general classification to be confirmed. So Sergei Firsanov
in place between Okolon and Mughal.